It took me 35 plus years to realize what I'll tell you in 15 minutes. I didn't get here quickly. I stumbled. I failed more than I succeeded. For over 3 decades, I lived by default, reacting instead of responding, wishing instead of planning, and drifting instead of directing my course. I chased things that didn't matter, ignored what did, and convinced myself I was doing just fine, until I wasn't. Only in hindsight did the patterns become clear. The breakthroughs didn't come from one dramatic moment, but through layers of hard-earned wisdom tested in life's trenches. What I learned in 35 plus years, I can now share in under 15 minutes, not as hacks, but as mental frameworks that can completely reshape how you live, think, choose, act, and evolve. Chapter 1. Mental Model Upgrade. Your mind isn't just a container of thoughts, it's the operating system that interprets the world. For decades, I ran my life on faulty programming, models inherited from school, media, and culture. I believed success meant constant hustle. I thought being right was more important than being effective. I valued certainty over curiosity. But mental models are not truths. They're tools. And better tools mean better outcomes. Once I began upgrading the way I thought about thinking, everything shifted. I learned to zoom out, to ask better questions, to think in probabilities instead of binaries. I stopped seeing problems as obstacles and started seeing them as systems with levers. Mental clarity isn't about knowing more facts. It's about structuring your perception in ways that make wisdom obvious. Upgrading your models is the first step to upgrading your life. Chapter 2. The Attention Economy. Your attention is your most valuable currency. Not your money, not your time, your attention. Where it goes, your life follows. But I spent years giving mine away, scrolling, reacting, consuming, distracting myself from the discomfort of being still. We live in a war for our minds. Algorithms are trained to hijack our focus, and we are trained to comply. But strategic living requires intentional focus. Until you reclaim your attention, you cannot reclaim your future. I learned to guard my focus like treasure. I built attention rituals. I cleaned my digital diet. I learned that the difference between mediocrity and mastery is not intelligence. It's the ability to direct attention long enough to solve meaningful problems. Everything you want is on the other side of uninterrupted focus. Until you own your attention, you're not living your life. Chapter 3. Decision-making deconstructed. Every outcome in your life, good or bad, is downstream of a decision. Yet no one teaches us how to decide well. I used to choose reactively, out of fear, ego, urgency, or habit, and I paid the price in regret, wasted years, and emotional exhaustion. Eventually, I broke the process apart. I started asking, what are the real options? What data matters? What biases are influencing me? What's the cost of indecision? Good decisions aren't just about information. They're about process. I began to trust frameworks, invert the problem, consider second-order effects, delay choices until clarity arises, and distinguish between reversible and irreversible decisions. The quality of your life depends on the quality of your choices, and the quality of your choices depends on the clarity of your mind at the moment of choice. When you master decision-making, you stop feeling stuck. You begin to feel free. Chapter 4. The Implementation Gap. Knowing what to do is not the problem. Doing it consistently is. That's the great chasm where most potential dies. I had notebooks full of goals and plans, but I struggled to act on them. I blamed laziness, but it wasn't laziness. It was friction, internal and external resistance, a lack of structure, perfectionism disguised as procrastination. Bridging the implementation gap requires humility. I had to lower the bar and raise the frequency. Start small, make the habit stupidly easy. Build momentum instead of waiting for motivation. Execution isn't about being pumped up. It's about being systemized. Your ability to translate insight into action determines everything. Ideas change nothing. Action changes everything. Chapter 5. System design versus willpower. Willpower is overrated. I used to rely on it like a crutch. Pushing through, burning out, starting over. But willpower is finite. It fluctuates with mood, stress, and sleep. Systems, on the other hand, are sustainable. A system is any structure that makes the right action easier and the wrong action harder. That could be environment design, habit stacking, accountability loops, or clear constraints. I stopped trying to change my life with discipline alone. Instead, I designed my default behaviors to align with my desired identity. The results were exponential. I didn't need to try harder, I just needed to design smarter. Change your systems and your life changes without drama. Discipline is for beginners. Systems are for those who want freedom. Chapter 6. Relationship Dynamics Decoded. For years, I misunderstood relationships. I believed that being liked was the goal, that avoiding conflict was maturity, and that loyalty meant tolerating toxicity. That belief system cost me energy, peace, and growth. Eventually, I learned to decode relationship dynamics. Power, boundaries, projection, attachment styles, trauma loops. Once I saw the patterns, I could no longer unsee them. I stopped blaming others and started taking responsibility for what I allowed and attracted. Relationships shape your identity. They either reflect who you were, support who you are, or challenge who you want to become. Choose wisely. Healthy connections don't require performance. They require presence. The right people won't just accept your evolution, they'll expect it. Chapter 7. The Success Paradox. I used to think success would finally make me feel secure. That achievement would silence the doubt that if I reached a certain income, status, or milestone, I'd be done. That illusion nearly broke me. The truth? Success doesn't fix your internal void. It amplifies whatever is already there. If you chase external wins to fill an internal gap, you'll find yourself emptier at the top than you were at the bottom. The real success paradox is this. Fulfillment doesn't come from acquiring, but from aligning. Aligning your actions with your values, your energy with your mission, and your effort with your joy. Success without self-awareness becomes a trap. With awareness, it becomes a tool. The life you want isn't built on more, it's built on enough, well chosen. Chapter 8. Identity-based transformation. Change doesn't stick when it's based on behavior alone. It sticks when it flows from identity. I used to try changing my habits like duct tape, temporary fixes on a faulty foundation. But when I started changing how I saw myself, the behaviors followed effortlessly. When you shift from "I want to write" to "I am a writer," you start behaving like one. You no longer need motivation. You simply act by who you've decided to become. Identity isn't fixed. It's a feedback loop. Every action is a vote for the type of person you believe you are. Your job is to cast enough votes for the future until it becomes your default. Transformation is not about forcing change. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need to force it. Chapter 9. Wisdom Integration. Knowledge is information. Wisdom is transformation. I had tons of knowledge. Books read, podcasts played, quotes saved. But wisdom, that came much later. Wisdom is the integration of truth into behavior. It's the slow digestion of insight until it becomes a reflex. It's knowing when to speak and when to be silent, when to act and when to wait, when to push and when to release. It's not fast, it's not loud, and it's not found in hacks. Wisdom is lived. It's earned through failure, refined by reflection, and tested in relationships. The more I slowed down and listened, the more I realized life isn't about learning more. It's about embodying what you already know. The wise don't just teach, they live the lesson. That's the journey I'm still on, and that's the journey I offer to you. Final thought. You don't need 35 years. Everything I've written here took me decades to learn, but you don't need to wait that long. The knowledge is available. The models are accessible. The decision is yours. You can stay trapped in distraction, chasing validation, stuck in loops, or you can stop, reflect, rebuild. You can think differently, act intentionally, and live strategically. This is not about being perfect. It's about becoming aware. The moment you decide to wake up and take ownership of your mind, your choices, and your future, everything changes. I spent 35 years looking for answers. You've just read them in under 15 minutes. The only question left is, What will you do next?